myself again. But it's the only way you're ever gonna learn. You look back and it's all in the past. I'm dwelling on the thoughts I cannot say to you. If I don't say the words, then maybe it's not true.
Good morning, welcome to NUFC Matters with me, Steve Wraith. Delighted to be joined once again by George Mitchell as we go back in time on those were the days. What season are we looking at today, George?
55-56.
Fantastic.
The year we're cup holders now, and it's a position we're almost getting used to being in.
Great stuff, George. Well, over to you, mate. I've got the photos prepped. We're ready to go.
Right, okay. Yeah, we're cup holders, and you'd think that everything in the garden would be rosy in that position, but typical Newcastle United, there's all sorts of things going on in the background with players and all sorts of things. No massive turnaround in staff this particular season, where in other years there's been as many as 6, 7, 8 in and 6, 7, 8 out. Well, this time there's only 2 or 3 mentionable players coming in and 2 or 3 mentionable players going out. Coming in is worth mentioning is a couple of people who I know and actually played with later on, but Reg Evans, who joined as a part-time professional. And then George Easton came from Ards in Northern Ireland. Now, that's a name that was to become an outstanding player and a great England player, but also become famous for breaking the wage cap a couple of years on with the Football League and in the FA. And the other one coming in was Bill McKinney from Wallsend St Luke's. But going out, the only notable, 2 notable going outs was Ivor Broadus, an English international, a really clever midfield player, played a lot of games for England, a very articulate man. Now, he's still alive. He's about 98, I think. And there's a lovely video of him on the club website that they spoke to him recently. And he reminded people about when he got into trouble when he played for England, because he came home and he said he couldn't understand how Walter Winterbottom was the manager, but he didn't pick the team. The England Blazers picked the team, is how he phrased it. What he meant was there was a selection committee, and the selection committee were all the FA representatives on the board, and they were from various clubs. And of course, when they were picking the team, they all wanted their men in the England team, because if they got somebody in the England team, their value went up. So there was a tussle amongst the selection committee about who got into the team, and Ivor Broadus was brave enough to mention it publicly and say that he was sick of hearing that the Blazers were picking the team. But Ivor left us that time and went on to Carlisle. The biggie for me and for all the supporters at this time was to see how they treated Frank Brennan. And I'll mention it again because I'll about to start my photographs. Can we start with Bobby Cowell's photo, please, Steve? Bobby Cowell, a fullback for many years, great fullback. Jackie Milburn describes him, as do others, as the best uncapped fullback in the entire country. And Bobby he was a real genuine man, but they never got into the England scene at all. However, prior to the beginning of the season, in previous years when we'd won the cup, the club went off on a tour, some horrendous tours. I think you and I looked at a one to South Africa, Steve, which was tour de force, 6,000 miles in a couple of weeks and dozens of games. Well, this time they decided they wouldn't go immediately after the cup. They had plenty of offers, but they decided to go on a pre-season tour of Germany, which is interesting when the club's going to Austria this summer. So that is quite interesting. I played German teams. Anyway, they decided to go on this tour of Germany. Far too many games, a game every 3 days. They played all the top German teams. But unfortunately, the one thing that did happen, which was something of a disaster, was that Bobby Cowell got injured. He injured his knee, and that was the end for Bobby. And in fairness to the club, they kept Bobby on the staff for a whole season on full pay. And then at the end of the season, they allowed him to have a testimonial. And I think the next picture is the programme for the testimonial. Now, people came and played for Bobby from all over. My memory is that even the lads from Blackpool, Matthews, Mortensen, Taylor all came over. Finney came from Preston. Roy Bentley came up from London. All the old Magpies that had played with Bobby came and played in his testimonial, and it was something of a match because it raised quite a substantial sum of money for Bobby, which in those days they needed. I mean, they weren't paid the thousands that they are now, but it was a game to remember. And as I say, it was nice to see how professionals from all around the country were keen to come and help Bobby. And I know how much he appreciated it. The next one, I think, is straight into the Frank Brennan. Contrast how they're treating Bobby Cowell with how they're treating Frank Brennan. Frank Brennan, Seymour clearly wanted rid, and Livingston, who was the manager. Oh, how he could stay a manager, by the way. Don't forget, this is the man who was going to leave Jackie Milburn out the cup final team, and the directors overrode him and told him, no, Jackie Milburn's playing like the lumpman. He didn't even lead the team out at Wembley, and yet he is still as manager at the start of this season. But him and Seymour, for some reason, and the reason becomes more obvious later in the year, they want Frank Brennan out of the team. They'd bought Bill Patterson as a replacement, and they were determined to play Bill Patterson. Now, that was hard on him because he comes to replace a club legend. Every mistake you can imagine, the crowd, every bad pass, every mishead, every slightest error that he made, Bill Patterson used to get the high off the crowd. Frank Brennan was demoted to the third team, not even the second team, the third team, the Northern Alliance team. And his salary was halved, and they got the Players' Union involved, and that did absolutely nothing because they had no power then. I suspect they've got very little power now. But never mind, it didn't do anything for Frank at all. So Frank spent most of that season playing in the third team. What a come down with somebody who was, 2 cup finals, great 50, 60 matches a year, depending on what games were played, and playing for Scotland. And there he is sitting in the third team on half salary. Eventually, Frank gave up and went and played for North Shields in the North Eastern League, which was in those days was a decent league and was a full professional league. And Frank went and played for them. So that was a complete contrast to what they did to Frank compared to what they did for Bobby Cowell. And as I say, as we go through towards the end of the year, the reasons why start to come clearer. Right, we'll go straight into the season now. I think our first match was at Sheffield United. Now, I think the programme's there somewhere, Steve. Yeah. We started to see, we weren't predicted to do anything special, but the one thing we could predict about was we would score goals. I mean, that season that we just won the cup, 89 goals in 42 games in the league wasn't bad, and it was a mile ahead of anybody else. Even the people, Chelsea won the league, and they only could reach 70 goals. They didn't get anything like the 89 that we did. Well, the one thing people were sure about with us was we would score goals. And lo and behold, on the first match against Sheffield United, we beat them 4-2. And it was 2 to Reg Davies, 1 to George Hanna, and 1 to Vic Keeble. And Alf Ringstead, a stalwart of Sheffield United, scored the two goals for them. But it gave us the sort of kick-off we needed, and people start to hope, well, maybe this year we'll actually do something in the league for a change. But Newcastle being Newcastle, it's 1 game up and 1 game down. The next game, I think, is right. we're playing a few games, and all of a sudden we've got the Charity Shield to cope with from the previous season. Chelsea won the league, we won the cup, so we met in the Charity Shield, and it was played at Chelsea's ground, which wouldn't happen today. It would be played at Wembley, but it was played at Chelsea's ground, and a good game, but not a good game for us. They wiped the floor with us, basically. They beat with 3-0, and all 3 goals were scored by our former centre forward, Roy Bentley, who was scoring goals for Toffee for Chelsea at the time, and even for England. He was the England star centre forward at that time. But he had a habit of reminding us that he used to play for us by rattling in a couple of goals every time we met them. So Roy Bentley scored the hat-trick, and they beat with 3-0 and took the Charity Shield to Stamford Bridge. The number of times we've played in the Charity Shield, I think we've only won it once in all the years that we've tried. We've competed in it, but that's one of those Newcastle things, I think. So we then move on. I think it's to Charlton as the next match. Yeah, that's the away game, and again, not expected to do anything, but lo and behold, we beat Charlton 2-0. I think there's a bit of there's a black and white photo follow that. That's Bill Patterson, centre half, clearing the lines at the Valley at Charlton, and we beat them 2-0. And Tommy Casey and Bobby Mitchell scored 2 beautiful goals, and everybody started to get excited. I mean, we're now not just winning at home, we're winning away as well. It's interesting that the return match was in the September. Some reason the matches in this particular season were close together. I think the next program might be the home match. I think Steve.
That's the next one that was teed up.
Right, and is that Charlton? I can't see what it says. I think it is
Burnley.
Actually it. Burnley. Okay, well we'll leave that one. Well, the Charlton return match was in the September, and just after that one, actually after the Burnley game, and we beat them 4-1. But the interesting thing is, hat trick for Jackie Milburn, Vic Cable, and the goals are starting to run in again as we're getting used to. Stuart Leary was the Charlton star centre forward, and he scored their goal. But they had Sam Bartram in goal, a very well liked and loved footballer, a character. He always joked with the crowd whichever end he was at Newcastle. When he came out, he always had a word with the crowd. He was always a lot of back chat with Sam Bartram, and he loved it. You could see. The other thing about him, which was always notable, was he used to always wear one of these old-fashioned woolen goalkeepers polo neck jumpers, the sort of thing that we all wore when we were kids. And it was just a character, but a brilliant goalkeeper. Never picked for England, and lots of people wondered why. But as I say, a character. And Stuart Leary was the other one. And who else did they have? Don Townsend, one of their fullbacks, was an England international. Next was Burnley. You put the Burnley one up there.
Yeah, I've got Burnley home and away tied up next. So
right,
just to give you a heads up.
Well, the reason I picked these ones was that I think I've said to you before, the family always like to go to make sure they've seen certain matches, both home and away. Now, they like Burnley for the obvious reason. Burnley always had lots of Geordies in their team, and this was no exception. The goalkeeper was MacDonald from Seaham, Jimmy Adamson and Tommy Cummins from Ashington and Newburn, Les Shannon, Billy Gray, Roy Stevenson, all from the northeast, either from Durham or from Northumberland, and everybody used to love to go and see them play, and they always played good football. That was the other thing. On this particular game, we were on form and beat them 3-1. Reg Davies, Bobby Mitchell, and Jimmy Schooler were the scorers. Now there's Jimmy Schooler, the captain, weighing in with a goal from midfield, and Brian Pinkerton, a very dainty little winger from Burnley, scored their goal. But a match which attracted 41,000 crowd, and a game which was really entertaining and people enjoyed. Now I put the away game straight in, but even though it's back in December, because the teams are virtually identical, both us and Burnley. But again, our team is Simpson, Batty, Matt Melchior, Charlie Crowe, Bill Patterson, Tommy Casey. Unusual to see Charlie Crowe playing on the right side of midfield. He's normally left-sided. And then we go to the forwards, and we've got Jackie Milburn, Reg Davies, Vic Keeble, Len White, and Bill Curry. Now, once again, that's us playing 5 up front, and 4 of them are centre forwards. Curry, White, Keeble, and Milburn were all really centre forwards, yet they were happy to play anywhere across the line, and it seemed to work because, as I say, they were winning games with that formation. They didn't win this particular game; they were away from home. Burnley reversed the 3-1, and Brian Pinkerton again scored 2 goals. Billy Gray scored the 3rd, and Vic Keeble got our consolation. Now, most of my family went to this game because they used to like to go and see Burnley, and it was regarded by them as a good away trip. They enjoyed the trip to Burnley, and it was one they got familiar with. I think the next one's probably Portsmouth, I think, Steve.
Correct.
Yeah. Well, the reason I put this in is that you and I talked last week, and the lads on Three Amigos talked about teams that were rivals. And last week I talked about the teams that were like to go to, who give us a good welcome. Plymouth was the one I used that last week. Well, I used Portsmouth this week because, again, this is the one which my family always liked to go to because they used to say when they came back that they were well received in the clubs and pubs around Portsmouth. They couldn't get enough of the Geordies. They were happy to see and all the rest of it. So it was all a good trip. It was a very long trip in those days. I mean, it is now, but you can imagine without motorways and all the rest of it, it was an overnighter for the lads. And they used to always persuade Alfie Hollins for Portsmouth to get his bus out and take a trip down. This gives an opportunity to introduce a new member of the Chicken Road Academy that you haven't heard of before. My Uncle Jimmy, me mum's youngest brother. He was a football fan, but he was in the Royal Navy. He run away at the Navy when he was 17 and went throughout the war. Unfortunately, he got caught in Singapore by the Japanese and spent time in Changi prison, which he would never talk about. I mean, it was one of those things that seemed to be with all the former Japanese prisoners. They didn't talk about their experiences publicly, and certainly my Uncle Jim never would. It lasted, though, his dislike of those people lasted a long time, because many, many, many years later, Marge and I were married. We got our first new car, and it was a Toyota, a Japanese car. And we went to a family wedding, and everybody was getting lifts home. And I said to my Uncle Jim, well, you stay there, Uncle Jim, I'll take you home. You're bloody not, he says. I said, what for? He says, do you think I'm sitting in that thing that's been built by Japanese? And I'd rather walk home than go home in that car. So I had to shift the lifts around to other people so he didn't have to come in our Japanese car. That's how deep these feelings were for that. Anyway, he decided he would go to Portsmouth. Being a chief petty officer, he had lots of friends in the Navy, and he had lots of friends at Portsmouth. So this So he said to the lads, "Get us a seat on the bus." So he got a seat on the bus, and I'll come with you to Portsmouth. You go to the match, and I'll go and see my mates. So off they went, and Julie got to Portsmouth, and Uncle Jim disappeared, and off he went to see his friends. But halfway through the match, they suddenly got their eye on and said, "There's our Jimmy over there." And what had happened was he went to see his mates all right, but when he was sitting down having a cup of tea, he couldn't help but notice that the two lads in the house who were his mates were on edge. They were looking at the clock and wondering what to do. And to finish, their mother says, "Jimmy, they've got tickets for the match. They want to go to the match. They want to go and see Newcastle." So he ended up going to the match with them and catching up with the family actually at the game. So that's another member of the Chicken Road Academy that got involved. But they're all good family stories as far as I'm concerned, and a good reminder. Yeah. But I know my Uncle Jim, his time in the Navy, particularly in Changi Jail, was hard done by. In fact, it came back to me when I was one of the admissions tutors in the university, and I used to deal with the students from Singapore, and their Prime Minister was a hard man called Lee Kuan Yew, and tough character. Well, people don't realize that when the Japanese went home from Singapore, they left lots behind, because a lot of them married Singaporean girls, a lot of the women married Singaporean men. So there was a big Japanese colony in Singapore, and still is to this day. When they realized that they were staying, the community wrote to Lee Kuan Yew and said, "We'd like to build our own school. Can you sell us a plot of land?" So Lee Kuan Yew sold them a plot of land right opposite the gates to Changi Jail. I mean, the jail was there, and across the road was the grammar school, Japanese grammar school.
Brilliant.
Absolutely incredible. Now, that's somebody I got to know reasonably well, a very famous man, Lee Kuan Yew, because he had a habit of sending who he wanted to send to the university, not who was picked by UCAS or UCAS as it was in those days. So I used to have to ring and say, "Hey, you can't do that. That's not how we do it in England." "Oh, Mr. Mitchell," he used to say, "you can do it for me." I said, "No, I'm sorry. I'd be breaking the rules for you. I'd have to break the rules for somebody else. So please send the people we've chosen." And he was great, absolutely lovely for such a famous man. But anyway, that's Singapore connection for the family that came back to haunt me. We beat Portsmouth 2-0 on that day. Vic Keeble and Bill Curry scored the goals. Team was as before, but with Bill Patterson at centre-half, centre-back. And again, every slightest mistake that lad made, even in the away game, and the crowd was on top of him. The Portsmouth team included a number of up-and-coming England internationals. Jack Mansell was an England fullback, Jimmy Dickinson, an England midfielder, and Johnny Gordon, an England forward at those days. So there were no slouches. But by now, the manager of the team was back to being Stan Seymour, and not Dougie Livingston as we had in the past. Dougie Livingston had got the hint, I think, and decided he would go elsewhere. And I'm amazed he stuck around so long, to be honest. I would have thought that once they told him he couldn't pick the cup final team, Jackie Milburn was in the team and your man's not. I thought he would have gone then, but he didn't. He hung around for at least a couple of months. I'll get rid of that. The next one, I think, is next program. I think, just to remind us what is, in Arsenal. Arsenal were the team of the that everybody, the pundits, were desperate to see do something, and they were a great team, and this was our game at Highbury in October, and the beat were 1-0, and our team was pretty standard, except that we're suffering. You can now see what happens when we're suffering because Bobby Cowell's missing. We're trying other people at right back. Ken Woff came in, a young local lad. Ken was good, but he wasn't a Bobby Cowell, and it caused us all sorts of hassle and so on, because there was that gap that Bobby Cowell used to fill very nicely. So we were Simpson, Woff, Batty, Schooler, Kerry, because Patterson was injured, Charlie Crowe, and then the first team was the front line was Jackie Milburn, Dredge Davies, Alec Tate suddenly appears in view, a young Alec Tate who just joined the club as a part-time professional school teacher, became my school teacher as it happens in the next few years, which you'll hear about in subsequent programs, I hope. Then Vic Keeble and Bobby Mitchell. So there again, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 centre forwards in a forward line against Arsenal. Arsenal's team was famous. I mean, Jack Kelsey was international goalkeeper. Dennis Evans, Jimmy Bloomfield, England. Doug Lishman, Scotland. Don Roper, England. Peter Goran, Cliff Holton, England. And Danny Clapton, England. Tom Whittaker was their manager, and Alex Stock, their assistant manager. Now, Alex Stock gets lots of credit later on in his career for being one of the top coaches. And he coached a number of very famous teams and managed one or two as well.
Coach Supermac as well.
He certainly did. That's right. And in fact, I think Supermac credits him with Bobby Robson, who telling him, if you're a left footer, come back when you're a bit older and we'll sign you. And he did, you know, because left footers were hard to come by in those days, apparently. We were 47,000 at Highbury, and our lot didn't go to that particular game, but it was recorded as an important game. I've now gone to the return match with Arsenal, which I think might be the next programme. I don't know if it is.
No, we're on to Chelsea.
Okay. Well, I'll mention the return game here because we beat them 2-0. Milburn and Curry scored the goals. And the teams are almost identical, except that Bill Curry came in for Alec Tate and Bob Stokoe and Bill Patterson were back in the defence for those that were there in the first time, with 51,000 at that match for Arsenal. And that wasn't unusual because Arsenal were always regarded as a good watch. The next game I've got in my pile, I haven't got a programme for it, was a game that another visiting team that the family used to like to go to because it was always a good football match, and that was to Huddersfield Town, to Leeds Road. The other thing they liked about Leeds Road was it was an old-fashioned football ground. I mean, if we had the old wooden stand at St James's at this time, well, they had a whole ground that was wood. Even the terraces were still wooden sleepers. You know, that's how old it was. But it had a feel to it. It was, as far as our lot were concerned, it was a good football ground, and Huddersfield were a good football team. We were playing well at the time, so our lot decided to get Alfie Hollis to take them to Huddersfield, which wasn't that far for them. But then we went 1-0 down, we went 2-0 down, and our lot thought, well, that's it. We're in real trouble here. But then, just before half-time, Vic Keeble pulled one back. Immediately after half-time, Vic Keeble pulled another one back. And then he scored another one. We're now 3-2 in the lead. And then he scores another one. We're 4-2 in the lead. And Len White scores another one to make it 5-2. And an exceptional, unusual goal from somebody called Charlie Crowe, who didn't score many goals. scored a real humdinger in that game. So we ended up beating them 6-2. And it's no slouch because we talk about the Huddersfield team being a good football team. Some of the names, I mean, one of the fullbacks was a young man called Ray Wilson, who eventually got a World Cup winners medal. And he was in that Huddersfield team. Vic Metcalf, Len Quested, Bill McGarry, who we got to know as well manager, but Tommy Kavanagh and Jimmy Gazzard. They were all international players of repute, and invariably made played good football, good attacking football. The manager was Andy Beattie, a man who was well liked in football. But the interesting thing is, see, when you look at our crowds, we're looking at 40, 50,000, 30,000 would be a bad crowd for us. Huddersfield have only got 19,000 at this game, and about 6,000 of them are Geordies. The one end of the ground was packed with, like it is now. We're packed with Geordies who had made the trip down to see the game. But a game worth remembering now. And again, just remind people, here we are banging in the goals again. Remember the previous season, 89 goals in 42 games. Well, we're well on our way to doing that again. The trouble is, every now and again, we have a run where we don't win anything, and so we drop down the league. Now, the next thing I've got is Chelsea, and I think that's the next one you've got, Steve.
Yeah, correct.
That's the away game. The other one, notice if anybody looking at that, you look at our programmes, they're 3 pence. Look at the cost of Chelsea's. Yeah, they were ripping them off then, and they do it now with the away tickets. We're always the dear ones when we go to Stamford Bridge, 45, 50, 60 quid for Geordies. And there they are charging 6 pence for their programmes in the 1955-56 season. It was a great game. They were reigning champions, so it was obviously going to be a very, very good game. The hex on us, of course, was that Roy Bentley was playing for them, and he always liked to stick a couple against Newcastle. We went and we beat them. They beat us 2-1, and our team was more like the team that we're used to. Ronnie Simpson, Ron Batty, Alfred Michael, Jamie Schooler, Bob Stoko, Charlie Crowe, and the forward line was Jackie Milburn, Reg Davies, Vic Keeble, Len White, and Bill Punton. Now, Bill Punton was a Scottish left winger who joined with, and Bill was a tidy player, but I don't know. He had a couple of good seasons and then just faded. I think that I suppose the pressure of trying to keep Bobby Mitchell out of the team was probably a lot for a youngster, and I think he just got fed up and decided to go back to Scotland. The Chelsea team, old names: Stan Wicks, Derek Saunders, Peter Sillett, an old fullback whose son actually came back and played for Chelsea as well. Frank Blunstone's a name that people might have heard of. Ron Tyndall, Peter Brobrook, who played for England, and Roy Bentley, who was the England centre forward at the time. And the crowd is 37,000 at Stamford Bridge. Bearing in mind they're reigning champions, you were expected it to be a bigger crowd than that. Bearing in mind, amongst that 37,000, be about 5,000 Geordies going down to Stamford Bridge. I don't know if the next one's the home Chelsea game, Steve.
Let's see. Yes,
it is. Yeah. And this is when I went in April, and Stan Seymour's still the manager. We haven't done anything about changing that. And it's a 1-1 draw. Chelsea, and we give Chelsea a good game. But again, our team has changed again. Simpson, Lackenby, Batty, Schooler, Batty, Michael, Schooler, Lackenby, Tommy Casey coming back into the team, and then the forward line of Jackie Milburn, Bill Curry, Len Wade, Vic Keeble, and Bobby Mitchell. And again, 4 centre forwards in my forward line, with Seymour as the manager, Norman Smith as the assistant manager. And unusually for us, 24,000 in the crowd. And the reason was that a few weeks before that, we'd had a really bad run, and that reflected in the crowd. And the Chelsea team was identical to the one that played with Stamford Bridge, but 1-1 result nevertheless. And my memory is a good football game, actually. Now coming to a bit of the season that everybody enjoyed, the 2 games against the Mackhams. I don't know which one's first, Steve. I think it's
this one.
Yeah, that's us.
Now, I don't have these 2 programs together. I think one comes later on, but I've got this first one, which is the home game.
The one later on is the cup tie.
Right,
okay. No, I couldn't get the away one
fixture.
Yeah.
So this is the home game.
This is the home game, and 61,058 people in St James's Park for this derby match, and we beat them 3-1. Jackie Milburn, Vic Keeble, and Len White, and Bill Holden, the big centre forward, the boat from Burnley the season before, when they were labelled the Bank of England club, scored their consolation. We beat them well and truly, but it was still a good derby game. Their manager was Bill Murray, well-known player, and our team was predictable. Ronnie Simpson, Roddy Batty, Alf McMichael, Jimmy Schooler, Bill Patterson, Tom Casey, and the forward line was the 4 centre forwards: Jackie Milburn, Reg Davies, Vic Keeble, Bill Curry, Len White, and Bill Curry. I mean, we're if we don't score goals, we should with the players that we're trying, with all these attacking players at the time. But nearly over 61,000 watching that, and it was a great occasion, absolutely fantastic occasion. The return game, which I couldn't find the programme for, was actually, I think it was the other way around. I think I've done the home game for us was on the 27th of December. The first game was on my birthday on the 26th of December at Roker Park, and so you can imagine. I was allowed to go. That's one. These are the away matches I was allowed to go to. The Sunderland, Middlesbrough, etc. If they were close by, and we went to Roker Park with no great hopes of it, other than just wanting to win. And it started off a nightmare. To be perfectly honest, Charlie Fleming scored. He dummied poor Bill Patterson, which really got the Geordie crowd on Bill Patterson's back. And banged the one in, and we thought, oh, here we go, we're in trouble now. But then, just before half time, Keeble equalises. Just after half time, Keeble puts 1 in the 2-1 in the lead, and then Bill Curry slots in 2 to make it 4-1, and then Jackie Milburn slots in 2 just to finish it off to make it 6-1. Well, you can imagine the sort of histrionics and so on that went on in the crowd that day. I mean, it was absolutely amazing. What's also interesting and amazes me now is that even though that was the score, I don't remember there being any trouble. If we were to beat Sunderland at St James's Park now, I reckon there would be trouble all over the bloody ground. People would be getting upset all over the place. There we were in Roker Park amongst. We were actually in the Fulwell end, and it would like a lot of Magpies used to go in the Fulwell end, and no trouble at all. Just people enjoying the football. 56,000, nearly 57,000 at Roker Park for that first game. So it's perhaps not surprising that there was over 60,000 for the return game when we went back. And now skipping forward a little bit to the two Manchesters, because they're games which I like. I think the next one, is Manchester United away. And again, another trip that my family used to like to make if they could. And they went to Old Trafford on this particular occasion. Unfortunately, it was the occasion which was a disaster, virtually. They beat were 5-2. Dennis Violet 2, David Pegg, Tommy Taylor, and John Doherty. Keeble and Stokoe scored our consolation goals. But the people who were playing, and I don't know if people watching this will realise, is there a team photo? The next picture, yeah, there they are. That's the team that were played, and it's the Busby Babes. The Busby Babes, who not long after this was February, February 58 was Munich. That's when it was, but this is in 56. So this is the Busby Babes at the height, and they're all just young kids. The first one's Duncan Edwards. I've got to say, the greatest footballer I ever seen play. He could play anywhere. He had skill. He could tackle. He could head. He was fast. I mean, Duncan Edwards had stayed alive. England would have won the World Cup long before 1966, in my view. He was just a tremendous player and an all-round player. And that's the rest of the team. And you can see Bill Fuchs next to the goalkeeper, Roger Byrne. I mean, they all were starting to play for England then. I'll go through that team. Ray Wood, Roger Byrne, Ian Greaves, Mark Jones, Duncan Edwards, Eddie Coleman, David Pegg, Dennis Violet, John Doherty, John Berry, and Tommy Taylor was the centre forward. Now, most of them were into the England team, in and out all the time at that particular time, and were starting to make great careers for themselves. But I regard it a privilege as being able to see them play at this time when they were at the height, when they were. It mystifies me that nobody's ever tried the Busby Babes again. Do you know that? We've never seen another club say, well, come on, we'll get these young kids together at 15 and we'll keep them until at 20 and then we'll put them in the first team.
Newcastle gave it a good go in the 90s, George.
They did. That's absolutely right. And but I've got to say, it was a great thrill to see that team playing as they did then. And we... Again, struggling to find a right back because of Bobby Cowell. George Lackenby's in this game, and I've got to say, John Berry, the winger, just tore him to shreds, and was the main reason why we got beat 5-2. And Stan Seymour was still our manager. 59,000 in Old Trafford for that game, and I know although we got a trouncing. I know my family, they all enjoyed the trip. They loved their away trips, but Manchester was one of the ones that they liked. And then I've included the return game, which is in the April. That's right, and we drew 0-0 with them. Virtually the same two teams again. Interestingly, I've never mentioned it with the first game. Manchester United's management team was Matt Busby was the manager, but he had three. People don't realise he had three assistants: Jimmy Murphy, Billy Inglis, and Tommy Curry. Jimmy Murphy looked after the lads, Billy Inglis looked after the defenders, and Tommy Curry looked after the forwards. And that's the way they managed the team, and it seemed to work very well for them. It was 0-0, but still a very entertaining game. And as I say, another opportunity to see players who would have graced the game for years, in my opinion, had it not been for the Munich crash. 38,000 at the game, which wasn't bad. And then next game is that I come to is Manchester City. The home game, we beat them 3-1. We like Manchester City again, good football side. Keeble, Milburn, White, Jack Dyson scored their consolation goal. and the Manchester City team was nearly the cup final team. Bert Troutman, Jack Hannaway, who John Meadows, who was injured in the cup final at the end of last season, the cup we won in '55, still wasn't playing back in the team. His knee was so badly injured. Roy Little, Dave Hugh and Roy Paul, all international players. Joe Hayes, Jack Dyson, and on the left side, little Bobby Johnson had scored the goal against us in the cup final, and the manager was Les McDowell. And you can see, because we'd had one or two bad games, 26,000 in St James's for that one. The away match was later in the year, and lo and behold, that's it. We beat them 2-1 at Main Road. Roy Clark set them off, and then Vic Keeble and George Hanna scored 2 goals to gear us the win, with only 22,000 at Main Road for that match. Now, the next series of photos will, I hope, speak for themselves. We're into the cup run now. I thought this cup run was so interesting. It was worth talking about it, separate from the league. This is the third round against Sheffield Wednesday at Hillsborough, and we went to Sheffield Wednesday and beat them 3-1. Fairly straightforward win, and everybody thought, "Oh, here we go again." With I don't know if there's any photographs to go with that one. Yes, it is. That's Bobby Mitchell leaving the Sheffield Wednesday defenders in his trail. The other thing to notice is that if people haven't seen this before, because the two teams wore stripes, it was up to the referee whether or not they were allowed to wear their stripes. And some referees wouldn't allow it. So on the cup matches, if one team had to change, both teams had to change. So that's us in the white second strip and Sheffield Wednesday in the blue second strip. Fairly straightforward regulation win with Sheffield Wednesday. And the next one should be a big one for me, because this was the first time I was allowed to go to London. The first really big away game that I went to. The reason I was allowed to do that was twofold. One, I'd just started to play some reasonable football myself, and as a reward for some of the things I'd been doing, my dad said, "Oh, well, we'll let you go to the Fulham match." So they got us a ticket to go on Holland's bus, and it was a great thrill. The other thing was, of course, that just before Christmas, I'd actually signed the schoolboy forms for Newcastle United, which the family were absolutely like this, as I was. It was great. So off we went to this Fulham game, and it was the biggest crowd it had ever been in Craven Cottage. It was officially labelled at 39,200. I reckon it was 50,000. I mean, the crush was such. You could hardly breathe, never mind move. But it was brilliant. What an experience. First time I ever had Pepsi Cola, incidentally. When they stopped at one of the drinking stops, I was sat in the corner, and I had my little knapsack with the little wooden rattle in. There it is. That went.
Give it a whirl. Give it a whirl.
It's all right if I whirl it, Marjorie. You can imagine.
Wake up, Marjorie.
a few thousand of them rattling off in the crowd, and all most of them made in Swan Hunters Joiner shop in Wallsend. Anyway, I was allowed to carry that and sit in the corner, and my father brought us a drink, and I had no clue what it was. It was the very first Pepsi Cola. Anyway, off we went to Fulham, and the next one might be is from the crowd. Is it the crowd? No, that's the team that played Fulham. Bob Stowe, Ron Batty, Bill Patterson, the Scottish centre-half who people love to hate, Ronnie Simpson, Tommy Casey, Vic Keeble, Jackie Milburn, Reg Davies, Alf McMichael was captain that day, Bill Curry and Bobby Mitchell. And that was the team that played Fulham that day. And I think that was take. And there's Salf McMichael and Jimmy Hill tossing up before the kickoff. People of our age will remember Jimmy Hill's big chin that he used to get ribbed about. But a great ambassador for football. I mean, Jimmy Hill was a bit of a Marmite character. I loved him, I hate him, but he did a lot for football and a lot for Coventry City in particularly. This one is one of the goals. We cantered to a 3-0 win by half time. A 3-0 up at half time. Jackie Milburn was just untouchable, and after the second half, the Fulham winger called Chamberlain scored a hat-trick and made it 3-3. And then Jimmy Hill scored a fourth one to make it 4-3. And the two pictures you've just seen are Vic Keeble's 2 goals. That's the winner that we got 5-4. But the one before that, can you flick it back, Steve?
I haven't got that one now.
Okay, that's all right. Well, the one that you went through before was the controversial one. Vic Keeble had obviously been watching Nat Lofthouse. Nat Lofthouse at Bolton had this knack that he waited for the goalkeeper. If the goalkeeper caught the ball, he waited for the goalkeeper's feet to touch the ground, and then he shoulder charged him into the back of the net. Well, Vic Keeble did that at Fulham to get that equaliser. There was hell on in the crowd. I mean, everybody went bananas, as there would be now. But the referee gave it. It was a fair shoulder charge. It was shoulder to shoulder. And in the back of the net went the goalkeeper. Then Keeble scored the winner. It was an incredible occasion. And there's the crowd. And look at the rattles popping up all over the place.
There's your rattle, George.
Yeah, that's right. Quite a few people had them with them. And but it was an incredible occasion, a great thrill for me, obviously. And then we made our way home. Everybody was convinced by now we won another cup run after that, because what a comeback. I mean, all the lads were playing well. Milburn, Mitchell, Keeble. It looked like it was written in the stars. So that's right. Bill Curry was some South Shields, absolutely right. And the next one, I think, is...
it's a photo of a player. It is this guy.
Oh, that's Tommy Casey. Tommy Casey, I mentioned a lot, being in the cup final, all the rest of it. And he got very, very little kudos out of the thing. He wasn't regarded as one of the stars, but he was a hard worker, scored some important goals. And if Tommy Casey scored a goal and he hit the ball, it stayed hit. I mean, that's the sort of bloke he was. He really could clout the ball and make it stick. And I just thought it was worth putting Tommy Casey in, because everybody sees the usual ones, Jackie Milburn, Bobby Mitchell, all the rest of it. But I thought it was worth giving Tommy Casey a particular shout. Now this is the last Fulham one, and the bloke in the suit is Doug Livingston, our former manager, who by now is managing Fulham. And I have, Steve, how hard I've tried to get a picture of Doug Livingston in a tracksuit. Yeah. And there he is at Fulham, still in his suit and his tie and his white collar.
He's a smart bloke, that's all.
Absolutely. Some of the pictures I find he's even got a fur-collared top coat on and a Homburg hat.
I bet he had a pocket watch as well.
Well, almost certainly. But that's him as manager of Fulham. But that's an important picture, because there's Jimmy Hill of the big chin, you can see. Norman Dodson, who became a manager later on. And a little lad next to Livingston is a little lad called Johnny Haynes, who became a great star for Fulham and for England. I think Johnny Haynes played about 60 or 70 times for England. A great midfield player. And as I say, I've tried hard to get Doug Livingston in a tracksuit, but no.
Anyone got a photo of Doug Livingston in his tracksuit? Send it to George. Yes. Just for posterity.
Yeah. And the next one is Stoke City. That was the next round of the FA Cup, the fifth round, and it was a game we thought, well, this is it. We're going to take Stoke City, no problem. And the next picture, I think, should there's Alf McMichael and Neil Franklin Stoke captain at the toss-up at St James's Park with the Gallagher, not the Gallagher, the terracing on the Lasers terrace side, and you can see the old floodlights that were on the poles at the top in those days. But you can see there's the remnants of snow on the ground, which had to be cleared off, and straw. And I was one of the kids sitting amongst the straw at that time. But that was straightforward 2-0 win, Keeble, Milburn. Then came the 6th round, and guess who? Sunderland. Having turned them over twice, I think everybody thought, well, this is straightforward. But this is Newcastle, of course, isn't it? I don't know whether the team thought they were just going to turn them over. Well, turn them over, we didn't. It was an absolute disaster. I think the next photograph, Steve, that's what they had to do to the pitch before the game could be played, get all the snow off it. That's something I don't miss about modern day football. Do you know that, Steve? I'm glad that's gone, because it was all, the snow was pushed onto the track with the straw that had covered it to keep the pitch warm. So it was something of a nightmare for everybody. And they used to get lads from the Dole queue to go up and help to shovel the snow off and give them a few bob for helping, which was great. But as I say, that's something I do not miss. I'm absolutely delighted we don't have to put up with that anymore. And there's Bobby Mitchell turning Stan Anderson, who's to come to us eventually, inside out on the left wing. And the game got off to a great start. We thought, well, this is it. It's right on for the win to take it to the semi-final and possibly another final. But lo and behold, along came Sunderland's big England centre forward, Bill Holden, and he scored twice. I don't know if there's any more photos after that, Steve. That's the Macabs rubbing it in. That's Sunderland supporters with their rattles rubbing it in after the game. The turn over, and they're entitled to celebrate because we were awful, absolutely awful. And another dream came to an end, because had we beat Sunderland, I'm convinced, we would have got to Wembley for another session. But it didn't happen. The last thing I was going to talk about is poor Frank Brennan. Frank Brennan now is established at No Shields, and the crowd still bemoaning the fact the way he was treated by Newcastle United. But then the story came out of St James's Park that just before Frank went to No Shields, the word came from Newcastle City Council that he had a planning application in to open a sports shop in the Gallagher. Well, guess who owned the other sports shop in Newcastle?
Stan
Seymour. That's right, down in Market Street. And whether that had anything to do with it or not, I don't know. But my connections say it had everything to do with it. He wanted Frank Brennan out because of the competition, and it's quite sad, because the reality in life is that Frank Brennan's sports shop was great, and Frank would do anything for anybody. And where Stan was, it was take it or leave it. If that's right, first £100 a week player was Johnny Haynes. Stan was okay, but if you went in and asked for a deal, it was take it or leave it. Where Frank would do a deal, and I think I've told you before about my school and Alec Tate, who I mentioned, who played. Alec thought we were going to do well, and he wanted some new strips for the team. We had black and white stripes, but they'd been washed so much they were grey and white stripes. You could hardly tell the white from the grey. They were so old and bad. So he went up to see Seymour and said, "Look, can you do us a deal for the lads? I want new strips for them for this season." Wouldn't give him 5%, nothing. And he was coming out of St James's Park, and who should be coming in but Frank Brennan. And Frank said, "What's the matter? You look a bit down." He says, "Well, I've just been to see if I get some strips for my school team, and it's no dice." So Frank Brennan took a bit of paper out of his pocket and wrote on this bit of paper, and he said to Alec, go to the shop and tell the manager, I said, you could have everything from goalkeeper to outside left for free. That's 11 strips, 11 shorts, 11 pairs of socks for free. And those strips were fantastic and stayed with the school for a very long time after that. Actually, probably the next time we're on, because by then I'm playing myself, I'll actually put the strips on because I've got pictures of the strips at the time with Alec Tate. As I say, that
we're losing you a little bit, George.
Sorry.
We lost you a little bit. I lost you a little bit there, George, because the internet reception went down. I'm not sure if it was your end or my end, but I got the gist.
No idea.
Got the gist of it.
Idea.
Yeah.
But
no worries. So where did you just finishing off? Where did Newcastle finish in the season? And any other last bits and bobs?
No, they were 13 for 14. 12th. I do them injustice. Yeah, but it's interesting. Yeah, and 85 goals scored. Manchester United were the champions, and they could only score 83. Yet here we are at 12th and banging in 85. The only trouble is we had 70 against. Manchester United only had 50 against. There's the difference. Why we weren't higher up the league. Although that's I was trying to see. I'm sure I've got the goal scorers. Keeble was the top scorer with 29, and Jackie Milburn was the second scorer with 27. And then there was others like Davies, Hannah, and the midfielders and Tommy Casey, who were chipping in with 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. So again, goals across the team from the front 5 and from the midfield, which made us quite dangerous. But as I say, not dangerous enough to get back to another final or to get higher up the league that time. But again, another interesting thing was the amount of games people played. You know, I don't even need to look at it at the list. Simpson, Batty, Milburn, Mitchell. 42 games. They were all in the 40s, and with a backbone like that playing regularly, you're inevitably going to have a good squad. And as I said to you before, when I see how many games the lads played when we had a cup run, nearly 60 games, and I see here the modern day players complaining about how many they play, they don't know they're born. They don't know they're born.
They definitely don't. As always, a great show. Big thank you to our sponsors, Spider Miner, worldwide coverage from Gareth, Nathan and the lads. The only cryptocurrency miner that can mine 5 different cryptocurrencies at the same time whilst using virtually no energy, and it's VPN protected. Buy yours now at www.miner.spidervpn.org. Thank you, lads. Also, thank you to Skips and Bins. Telephone 0800 25 45 25 3. Email inquiries at skipsandbins.com. Website www.skipsandbins.com. Easy, contract free and pay-as-you-go waste collection. Thanks to L&G Family Funeral Directors 01913897245 and to Garden of Healing Dispensary, CBD hemp and cannabinoid specialists www.thegohd.com. Thanks to qtechshop.co.uk, the makers of pool tables and snooker tables in Wallsend, Newcastle, and the guys who run our website, NUFCmatters.com. And thanks to Cleekai, meet the new Game Over screen dropping to a Clearrun device near you, available on Apple Store, Google Play, and Clearrun.game. Thanks to Mr. Vicky's. They are available at Keswick, Workington, and Cockermouth markets. Great to have you on board. You can also find them at their website, which is mrvickies.co.uk, or telephone 017 682 10102. Thanks for coming on board to you, lads. And don't forget, thanks as well to Media Arts for all the video work that they give us. And if you want to subscribe, hit the Newcastle Legends logo in the bottom right-hand corner and you can subscribe for free. We still do 7 shows a week. Hit the thumb up to like the video, click share to share to social media, and drop into the comments box to speak to like-minded Newcastle fans. You can also listen to us as a podcast on iTunes, Spotify, Podbean, and the rest. Usually goes up 24 hours after the show has finished. If you want to join the channel, then you can click join on YouTube and make a small donation, or you can go to the website, NUFCmatters.com, pay slightly more and get a cup, a pen, a membership card and a scarf, and you'll be entered into the monthly draw. We also have this QR code, so if you've got a smartphone, put your QR code on. It takes you straight there on the website. Don't forget, if you're a subscriber, you can have a free car sticker. Just email john@NUFCmatters.com. Make a donation to NUFC Fans Food Bank using this website, NUFCfansfoodbank.co.uk. And the Alan Shearer ball is still up for grabs. A couple of weeks left on this. Limited to 99 tickets, $2.99. Go to NUFCmatters.com to answer today. Don't forget, Tyson Fury in Gateshead next Thursday at the Fed. Tickets for that are from Goldstar promotions.co.uk, and the Botman t-shirt is now on sale at NUFCmatters.com in black or white. What else? Get yourself onto the website to get your t-shirts today. George, thanks very much, mate. Look forward to spending another day with you next week as we look ahead to next week. Can I make my own thanks to the sponsors as well that make this possible, because it's quite an important thing for me at the moment, and Steve knows how much I enjoy doing it. So thank you, everybody, and thank you, everybody, for bothering to watch. It's really kind of you. Thanks, thank Steve. You, George. Thanks, mate. Look forward to seeing you next week. Have a good weekend. Love to you and Marjorie, mate. Take care. Thanks, Steve. Bye-bye.